Hi, Dr. J.R. LaFrance back here. I yesterday explained you a little bit about, I should say, the greater picture of what I thought about the coronavirus problem that's been with us for about 2 months now. Today, I'm going to try to talk mainly about testing, plus a few other things at the end. Everybody knows that the World Health Organization and all the ministers of health have really tried to get us to do a lot of testing. We've improved. It's still and will never be sufficient. And I can't blame the governments. They did what they could. Those tests were improvised on the run. A lot of them were not good at the beginning. They were not sufficient. I read everywhere that they were inadequate, wrong result, etc. And then even at the end, especially the US government had to finally issue some tests that were probably not that great under what they call an emergency application or something like that. But because we don't have those statistics, it becomes very those tests. It becomes very difficult to make some predictions about the future or projections. I'll get rid of one thing. First of all, radiology. This disease is different. There is a specific radiological findings that radiologists find with this disease, but it's of course it's only in ICU in the hospital, so it's no good for the general population. So we'll get back to the lab, which is where most of this thing is being done. The tests that are being done at present are all genetic testing. In other words, they are coming from a swab that they put down your nose or down your throat. Down your nose is very preferable. It gets much better results, but it's not very comfortable, so people don't like them. Those tests are basically called RT-PCR, which is reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction. Too long a word. Just remember maybe PCR. Anyway, remember the swab down your nose. These are the tests that looks for virus. How did they do it? They look for the genetic component of the chromosome in the RNA in the virus. If they find it, they identify it. Now, this is based on the genome of the virus, which has been known for the last month or so. They amplify that and they can find, voila, you have positive or negative results. There's also another test that is becoming into play, but it's not a general detection problem. It's a serological test. It's made on the serum, on your blood. They pick your blood with a little pick, and then they find out if you have antibodies to the virus, which is an antigen. So you're looking for antibodies. There's two types. One is called an IgM, which is immunoglobulin M. It looks for the antibody in the early stage of the disease, probably in 10 days to a week and a half. Sorry, 10 days to 2 weeks or whatever. Like, not exactly at the beginning of the disease. Now, the most important one is the IgM, which looks for antibodies later on. These are much more important because they will tell us about how much immunity you develop to the disease. And we will know later if it's a long-term immunity that leads to what we call herd immunity, which is very important for not recurring of the disease again. Now, the first test is any test. Specificity and sensitivity are the two hallmarks of the test, any test. Sensitivity is simple. You test for something, like the coronavirus. The more it identifies, the higher its sensitivity is. The more it misses actual cases, the less sensitive it is. Simple. You test 100 people, all 100% you know are infected, the test shows 97 positive. So it missed 3 patients. Now, the sensitivity of that test would be 97%, and the 3% would be called false negative, because they're not negative, they are infected. Now, we look at specificity, which is a little different. Now you're looking to make sure that the test does not identify other things than what you're looking for. For example, very important, this is one coronavirus. If the test is not able to differentiate between this coronavirus and other simpler, less dangerous coronavirus, the test doesn't have a very good specificity. In other words, if it finds out 10 out of the 100 that are regular coronavirus and identifies them as being the novel coronavirus, then you have a problem, because 10 of these people were going to be told that they have the coronavirus and they only have the mild coronavirus. So we have a 10% false positive. These people will be told that they are infected and they are really infected with a very less dangerous virus. Now, I talked to a laboratory friend, a hepatologist who runs labs, and he's retired for 3-4 years. And he was talking to me about something called a predictive value, the positive or negative predictive value. I must admit I didn't understand everything he was trying to tell me. I went on the internet and I still don't understand that much. But I believe him that he says that he's not too impressed by what he sees. Take it for what it's worth. Now, the accuracy of the test. I read at the beginning there was a lot of problems with the test. Now, here's a line that really catches my attention. Public Health England developed a test to detect the presence of any type of coronavirus, including SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus of COVID-19. It formed the basis for 250,000 kits for the World Health Organization. Wow, if you remember what I was talking about, specificity. They made 250,000 tests knowing it couldn't tell the difference between a coronavirus and the novel coronavirus. Well, now, so what stats can we do with these tests? It becomes very difficult to make any stats on any predictive value. And that's sad because we don't know where we're going. And even after the fact, people are going to be able to spin it whichever way they want to spin it, depending on what they want to say. Because as they say, statistics, and damn lies, because you can make them say whatever you want if you don't have any good statistics to start with. Now I'm going to talk to you about what they call the happy hypoxic patient. There's something very strange with this virus. About a month ago, somebody told me I saw a patient with a oxygen saturation of 48. Impossible. I'm an anesthesiologist. You don't see that. The patient was happy. He said, "Doctor, you're going to send me back home. I'm not that sick." Wow, 48% sat. Well, it turned out that it's happening more and more. I was listening to a very, very bright guy that's in the front line in New York, and he's in where the ICUs are really overwhelmed. And he was saying that he sees that, and he doesn't understand what's happening. He tries maybe to make a similarity with high altitude sickness and stuff like that, or porphyria or some other thing. I mean, this guy is I was in awe of him. Like he was trying to really, he's on the front line and he's trying to find a way to help those patients in a different way. He found out that especially in a 50-year-old patient he was talking about, that he intubated him early because he thought he could save him this way, and actually got worse. And he's trying to figure what's happening. That doesn't make sense. I was usually saving patients this way, and I'm killing them. So he's trying to think outside the box, but it's difficult because it's new. Also, just to finish, in Taiwan or South Korea, they tested some patients that knew that had the coronavirus, had it severe or not that severe, and then they tested negative, as expected, after a week, after they got better. They tested them again a week later, they're positive again. They can't figure what that means. Is it the test that is not working properly? Is it the test that is being too sensitive and maybe picking up remnants of virus that are not significant and the patient is not infective? And what? They don't know. They also think it might be a reactivation. When you have a cold sore, the herpes virus, actually, when your wound disappears, the virus isn't gone. It just goes dormant, and then it's reactivated when your immunity is down, or a couple of triggers that does it. In my case, it was the sun. So reactivation is different than reinfection. Now, they think that maybe this patient is a reinfection. If it was, that's very serious. It would mean that this patient did not develop immunity and got reinfected again within weeks. I doubt that very much. You at least get some immunity to a disease, at least for weeks, if not months or years. So we'll see what happens out of that. Dr. Tan, the Minister of Health, has said that, rightfully so, she's starting to doubt that there's a lot of things we don't know about this virus. I'm happy whenever people don't know everything or or open the door to thinking outside the box. In closing, I would like to talk about the empty beds in the ICU. I read that this morning. I alluded to that yesterday. I'm not saying we should not have made the ICU ready. I think we should have had plans for that, but not necessarily close them over 2, 3 days and then wait for 2 months to see what happens. I think we should have made plan, and as the ICU filled, then we could have filled them and had plans in place to do that. So I think that's all for today. I talked a little about testing and what's happening, and there's going to be a lot of news, a lot of new findings about this virus. It's still very new, so keep listening, and maybe we'll hear some more news, good or bad. Thank you for listening.